Karibu sana.
This is our last day, our last morning of the first season of the One Home Journey, starting here in our mother continent, the cradle of life and humanity in Africa.
This first season, starting on International Peace Day, took us to Zimbabwe. It took us to South Africa, to Lesotho, to Tanzania, to Uganda, and finally, in the last country of the first season of the One Home Journey, to Kenya.
In this time, we have immersed ourselves so deeply with our local partners, our change makers in every country, in the daily realities, the ways in which they are suffering the worst consequences of the broken down systems, of climate change, of financial crisis, of food insecurity, and yet,
in these 6 countries, we immersed ourselves on the ground with pioneering organizations. Many of them, 19 in total, became or were awarded as homes for humanity for their extraordinary contributions to their communities in a holistic way, building a regenerative future against all odds.
Yes, what we have seen here has touched us beyond belief and inspired us. Young people living in absolute abject conditions who have shown a new kind of leadership that is selfless, that is collective, that cares not just for themselves and their communities, but at the same time cares for the community and for all of life, cares for the future generations that are to come as much as solving their crises today. We have seen women stepping forward from such difficult circumstances and shaping these loving spaces where each woman can flourish and the community can flourish and create a better future. We are so honored indeed that these very, very diverse movements, initiatives, organizations, all grassroots, indigenous community-led, locally based, rural and urban, could be honored by us for their remarkable impact as homes for humanity. We are so honored that we could also visit outstanding schools.
Yeah, in fact, over 8 of them we met. We collected and worked with children on the ground and collected over 200 drawings, seeing children drawing their dreams for the next 7 generations.
Yes, this has been so touching, seeing how there are schools, even in such difficult circumstances, in the midst, for example, in Buhera province in Zimbabwe, of an absolute drought, where children cannot afford the very limited school fees. Seeing how in every case, these schools are still nurturing the dreams of their children and hearing the children's dreams, so that this can be a reminder to us. How can we change our world so that we can fulfill their dreams?
We worked with over 200 women for the earth on the ground, with about 600 young future leaders in workshops, Youth for the Future, and worked with them on developing their own visions and passions for the future, which were extraordinary in their outcome.
Indeed. We have seen the culture that is still so alive in this mother continent across these 6 countries. We have seen, for example, in the refugee camp, the refugee settlement, Nakivale refugee settlement, with our extraordinary young youth leaders, how so many initiatives led by youth who have lost everything are still caring as parents for the community and for a different kind of future. And here we have also seen, for example, with Vera World Music, how they are using music and the arts as a way to bring together different cultures who are cohabiting, all having lost so much in this refugee settlement, and creating a joint culture which celebrates their diversity. And this has really been what we have appreciated so much in this time here, how each community is going back to the wisdom of African culture that they learned from their ancestors, which was almost obliterated through this time of colonization and the economic hardships that were faced thereafter. But now they're going back to that culture and they are reviving that culture, as we saw in the Savo conservation area, these conservancies where local communities across generations are coming together to celebrate their culture again, to revive it and to create livelihoods purpose-based livelihoods for the future.
In fact, we experience profound connection to the cultural grounds, Rama, as you just shared. For example, in Zimbabwe, we connected to the deep legacy of Naka. In fact, meaning legacy, working for the future with having the next 7 generations in mind and also connecting to the previous generations. In Lesotho, we experienced Khotso, the connection to peace, how the peace, the social cohesion, the inclusion of people is at the very heart of building the future.
Indeed, that was the way in which the kingdom of Lesotho was built, by bringing together different refugee groups that came together to form this nation, and it says, come in peace. In South Africa, we saw that despite the extraordinary hardships, it is Ubuntu that is still so alive, and especially practiced by young people in the townships who are saying, as in Makers Valley, as in KYP, the Kliptown Youth Program, we will show the kind of selfless, courageous, creative leadership we need for the future. We will make and co-create our future ourselves, not just for ourselves, but for all, modeling the kind of leadership we need in the future. And moving on
to Tanzania, where the spirit of umoja, of unity, is
so alive. Umoja it was that made Tanzania this home for so many of the freedom movements across the continent, and which remains a bastion of unity even today. And then the most extraordinary experience of living as one home, one family, within the diversity of the Nakivale refugee camp, refugee settlement in Uganda, with our young change makers who inspire us so much.
In fact, we have one of our young change makers, Rufin Kungwa, started his own home for humanity with the name of Nyumba ya Umoja, the home of unity.
Yes, and where Roger Kivatse, together with his soul brother Muhindo, has transformed their suffering of losing their families in the war in DR Congo into becoming the parents at the young tender age of 20 of other refugee children in new talent for the best future. This is the kind of leadership that can teach us so much for the future.
As we traveled on and entered Kenya, worked with the Matare Social Justice Fund in the slums of Matare, seeing how in the midst of nothing, in the midst of despair, young people stood up actually and built the future, showed perspectives, and drove actually innovation literally out of nothing.
Yes, what we love about our young leaders in the Matare Social Justice Center is they are not simply resisting the injustices of our current system, but their dream, and they are using the arts so much as so many of our other local partners, is to create the future, to live that future in the abject misery that has been imposed upon them by the current systems, but keeping the vision of that future. And then
we entered rural Kenya in the beautiful area of the Tsavo National Park. And here we found communities profoundly reconnecting to their cultural wells, and out of that, in a collective, cooperative manner, building healthy communities connected to cultural origin, and yet moving that legacy forward into a sustainable future.
And here we truly re-experienced the core of the One Home journey, the humanity, the unity, the feeling of home, the feeling of sharing whatever little you have with whoever comes, of being treated as family, as an honored guest, and yet as family at the same time by everyone we met. And this has been overwhelming. This is what we can learn. This is what we leave this beautiful, heartwarming continent with. Yes, there is so much of all of the things that are breaking down our world are very prevalent here. And yet there is this bubbling up from the grassroots, from the ground up, of that which is coded in all of our DNA. This knowledge that our humanity comes from our unity with each other. And that's why each of the people that we have interacted with, each of these organizations that have become and been recognized as homes for humanity, each of these initiatives well established or just emerging, is really a living answer to the key question of the One Home journey, which is
how do we transform our divided
Divided.
world, our endangered planet, into a united home for the family of all life. And this was the reason we felt and we could experience why this journey had to begin in Africa, where the story began and also where the renewal of the human story find its grounds.
And now, our hearts filled with what we have learned, continuing to hold the hands and carry in our hearts all of those, the hundreds and hundreds of people that we have deeply, deeply interacted with and become an expanded family of humanity with, carrying them with us, we move on to the next season.
We move on to the next season, but we don't move on just as a collection of organizations that have joined the journey. But these organizations, these change makers, are beginning to build an ecosystem, building and restoring the Earth family that we do all together on all continents. But Africa showed us the way. It opened a gate actually for building that future together. So as we travel to the next season, into the next season, as we are traversing the Indian Ocean that connects the eastern coast of Africa all the way with Asia, we are taking the legacy of Africa with us.
Yes, we are carrying each one of the people who has become part of this planetary family of future builders with us and all of their communities. And now we invite you to start with us the new season in Asia, Oceania. As we did here, there too we will be plunging into the indigenous wisdom, the cultural wisdom of each country, as well as the innovations, the creativity, and the future building potential and realities of each country across Sri Lanka, India,
Nepal, New
traversing
Zealand,
then to Aotearoa, and then to Australia
and
Japan.
culminating the second season, the Asia season, in
Japan.
in Japan, as we are struggling with the camera, wanting you to experience Africa. On the one hand, its beautiful natural grounds, and behind us, as you will see,
The Indian Ocean that we will soon traverse
on
to
our
reach
way to Asia.
Thank you and welcome.
Asante sana.
Dumela bana bataria sepe, dumela masutu